Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review, and this book review, I must admit, I am thinking I shouldn't be so chirpy and cheery because the subject matter is quite serious. And this is a book I found in the library quite by accident from an author who I recently read a very small book of his called The Memory Palace, and which mesmerized me. So when I saw this on my local library bookshelf, I thought I had to get this. And it is one of his recent books. It's Hari Kunzru, I hope I said that correctly, Red Pill, with a freaking looking guy with some laser eyesight honed in on you. Really interesting book. I read it in 2 days. And in fact, last night I couldn't even sleep and I had to get up at 2 o'clock because I kept thinking about the themes in this book. Now, I'm going to read very quickly what this book is about and then talk about the storyline and what I got out of it. Okay, so basically Red Pill is a novel about the alt-right online culture, creativity, sanity and history. It is a story of the 21st century told through the prism of the centuries that preceded it, and it shows how the darkest chapters of our past have returned to haunt our present. More than anything, though, Red Pill is a story about love and how it can endure in a world where everything else seems to have lost all meaning. Now, a very interesting book because yesterday I was reading up about the Great Reset, the Great Reset, the Great Reset. And I was scaring myself silly. So isn't it a surprise that I picked up this book and I started reading it? I thought, hello, here we go. Well, what is this book about? These themes that I've just read out are excellent, but why this book really hit home for me was, I'll talk about that. But look, let me just go through the story. It is about a guy. He's in middle age. We don't know his name. We don't know really that much about him, except that he's a writer. He lives in New York with a family. He's got a young little girl and obviously a wife. And he's like many middle-aged people. I'm in that boat myself, where you start to think about what is your purpose in life? What are you meant to do in life? Are you going on the right path? Now, given that he had a little girl, he was seeing there was a lot of things happening around the world that he thought, I won't be able to protect my little girl, which is a fair enough thought for any parent. And so he thought by focusing on his writing, he felt as if he was claustrophobic in the New York apartment. He needed a break. He needed space. He needed space where he could think and just sit down and write to his heart's content. So he got a fellowship for 3 months to go to Berlin at a place called the Goethe Center. And the Goethe Center was formed by a visionary by the same name, who was all for transparency and openness. And he had this visionary appeal of what life would be like in the future and how life should be lived by humanity. Meanwhile, at this point, as I'm reading about the story of Goethe, I'm thinking, is this alarm bells? Is this the Great Reset? Is this, what's his name, Schwab's visionary of the world? Like, that's what I was thinking, but it had nothing to do with it. You see how the mind just goes when you're reading stuff like this. Anyway, he goes to the Goethe Center. He books in there. They were waiting for him, and he gets a chance to get set up in his room, and he gets shown his office. Now, his office is an open plan office, and he hates it. He hates it simply because he wanted a space where he could be private. He could be with his own thoughts to be able to write. And so he started panicking at this point. And so what we see then is over time, he starts to have some misgivings about this place. And he seems to think that people are watching him. It's kind of like some kind of panopticon where there are cameras in every room. And he starts getting obsessed by the fact that people are watching him and that he needs his space to write, but he's not writing anything. Instead, he's on his laptop watching this show, this TV crime show called Blue Lives. And Blue Lives, just the way that Kunzru has written about this, I guess call it what you will, a Netflix series, it's very violent. There's some kind of underhanded meaning with regards to the violence that the character Carson is portraying in this television show, and he creates all these meanings in his head that there's some kind of messages there about how the world is moving towards more violent, where people are not in the spirit of the community but in it for themselves, that there's some kind of pecking order, that it's a survival tribal kind of life. And he's fearing like this because he's thinking this is how the world is going to go ahead, and he's at odds with his thinking about a bit more higher, more elevated, more spiritual, more, I guess, yeah, I really felt for the character. Anyway, so what happens is he starts to kind of slowly unravel, and he gets to meet at a party the creator of Blue Lives, a guy by the name of Anton, who I despised instantly simply because we come across Antons on the internet. You know, these types who, you know, make a lot of money in their early years, spruik these messages that are really, that can be underhanded, that could be cryptic. You don't really know where their interests or motivations lie. And Anton is this guru, yoga-loving, spruiking guy who seems to believe that how the world is going towards is not how this protagonist should be thinking about, and that this protagonist is obviously in this la-di-da conceptual all will be well moral world where Anton's thinking is, man, it's dog eat dog, survival of the fittest, tribalism, very racist thinking, the fact that he doesn't want to share his world with anyone else who is not of his race. So automatically we're seeing this character enmeshed with this world, and he gets obsessed. He gets obsessed by Anton to the point that he starts reading in a lot of the things that, you know, the shows that he's watching. He delves into the websites that Anton is about, and he gets involved in the conspiracy websites, trying to see messages and theories in all this. And he has it in his head that he has to go and find Anton and have it out with him, like a battle of his thinking and Anton's thinking. And so he travels to Scotland to try and find Anton, and he lives in this little hut that Anton has. But in the hut, that's where he finds his peace, if you could call it that, the private world where he could write. And he writes everything that he sees that is wrong with his current world. This is a wonderful chapter. I love this chapter of the book. However, you start to see that he's unraveling, and he starts to become, I guess, delusional. And so I'm not going to tell you the ending of the book, but to some people, some liked the ending, some didn't. I was expecting some kind of showdown with Anton, but that didn't happen. It happened in some other ways, I guess. But I think all this happened at the 2016, just before the election of Hillary Clinton and Trump. So there was a kind of feeling of what's going to happen now? How is the world going to turn in 2016? And it was portrayed in here. Now, I think Americans will probably kind of have a feel for this feeling in here. For me, right up the front at the beginning of the book was also something that I really felt, because I did travel to Germany early last year, and I had a lot of the feelings that the author and the protagonist had felt in the early half of the book, especially with regards to, I guess, history in Germany is all around you. You know the history of Germany, you know what had happened, and you know what could happen again. And in Germany, they don't want it to happen again. And I did see elements of history all around me, everything from kind of like muted statues of World War II or muted plaques, or outside every building there were a bronze plaque on the ground that would say the families of Jews who would live there and who had perished in the concentration camps. So history is all around you. And the place where the Writers' Centre was I guess, where the place where that conference happened, where they decided before World War II about the Jewish solution, where they came up with the extermination camps and that idea. So this author seemed to have, the protagonist seemed to be stuck between, I guess, old world of what happened versus new world, what could happen again. Also, his thinking of a better life and how humanity should be going versus conflict of the ideas of the new world, of where it looks as if where we are going now in the future, with conspiracy theories, with panopticons, with surveillance, with a dog eat dog life. There's a lot of themes in this book, and I can't even make heads or tails out of it. It's a book that certainly makes you think long and hard afterwards. Given that I was reading about the Great Reset and stories of the migration of refugees and the treatment of refugees, which is also in there. And there is one part of this in this book where he tries to befriend a Syrian refugee and give him his coat and give him money. But the Syrian refugee thinks that he's trying to buy his daughter. And I started to think, have we come this far? Have we come this far as a society where if we are trying to do something to help others, that it's taken or misconstrued in some way for the negative, for the bad? So yeah, I really felt for the protagonist who was desperately trying to find meaning out of a crazy, crazy world. And in some way, we're all trying to find meaning. I'm kind of doing the same thing. I love this book. It gets you in straight away. It's a thriller. There's a twist in there as to, I guess, how delusional is he delusional, or does he just get wrapped up too much in what is happening? And then how do we make sense of what is happening in the world? Should we give up on humanity? No, I don't think we should. Should we actually listen to what these freaking weirdos on the internet, these Anton-like thought leader guru types, are talking about where humanity is going? No. Anyway, sorry, I got really wrapped up in that, didn't I? I'm so terribly sorry I got wrapped up in this, but this is a book that really makes you think hard. It really makes you think hard. So, Red Pill by Hari Kunzru. I'm going to read his other books. I bloody well like this one. So let me know what you think if you have read this book. Did it affect you as much as it did me? Let me know what you think in the comments. Happy reading. Probably not happy reading with this one, but definitely thought-provoking reading. Okay then, bye for now.